Today, we're going to be talking about productivity tools to set you up to be proactive for success throughout your day. I'm Rebecca Fishkin with Clarity to Authenticity Coaching, and I help people as a life coach. I help people with burnout, overwhelm, and overcoming limiting beliefs so that they can live their best life. And I'm here today with Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma Mitchell, owner of Rosa Joy Co., and I'm an energy healing guide, and I help you to restore your purpose, peace, and power within using energy clearing techniques, clairvoyant tools, and other means.
Great. Thank you. So if you listen to our last podcast, we ended it with talking about our three priorities for the day. So we start our day knowing that if we can get these three things done, we know that we'll have a successful day. So to start with that, one of the things is maybe get one of those done before lunch. And all of these priorities should be in alignment with your goals and your tasks that you have set for the year, the month, the week, and the day. So it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you've ever heard of this book, Rebecca, called The 12-Week Year, but I was introduced to this by a productivity coach, and I love this concept of chunking down your goals into 12-week time periods and then into weeks and then into days. And this really does help you to know, okay, these tasks I'm going to do today are going to feed into my goals for the 12 weeks and for the year. So that's super helpful to look at when you're creating your task. But then on top of that, you and I have talked a lot about your moods and how do you feel during that specific day that you're creating those tasks. So you may not feel at your best. You may feel a little sick. You may feel a little fatigued. So, what task can you do off of your list that will feed into that mood? Like, you're not trying your hardest. You're not tackling the most challenging thing or the most creative thing that day. If you wake up and you feel really creative, what task can you put on your calendar that day that will really enhance that creativity and work with the creativity? Not to say you should never do the tasks you don't want to do, because if it was up to me, I would never do a lot of those boring things. But you really made a good point earlier when we were talking about this, about making sure you're setting yourself up for the best day, that you have the best willpower, but also the time of the day. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Thanks for saying all that. I think that part of it is by having, first of all, when do you have your best willpower? Most of the time, most people, because of our circadian rhythm, we have our greatest willpower in the morning, first thing. So having a task that you don't typically like to do, but you know that it's would lead to the success of what you're wanting to accomplish, doing that first thing in the morning is great. However, I also agree with what you're saying, Emma, about not necessarily, sometimes we just are in a funk. It just doesn't feel like a good day. Yet sometimes we still have no choice and we have to do that. So maybe it is finding something that you can call a win. What would be a win that you could do that you can like give yourself this little boost of energy so that you can then go ahead into that activity that might take a little bit more energy than other activities?
And adding in the fun to it. So, how can you make that boring task more fun? How can you add music or maybe a podcast or an audiobook if you're able to and it doesn't mess up your thinking? Sometimes I'll just go sit outside and work or sit in a different place or go to a coffee shop or something like that to just make it a little bit more adventurous, even if you're doing numbers or database work or something else. Or like you were saying, make it a win. Maybe you just, you make a call that you didn't want to make, and then afterwards you jump up and down, you cheer for yourself or something like,
I like
or go eat. I'm such a dessert person. Go eat a piece of cake because you you did this task. I know you're not supposed to reward yourself with food, but what is there something fun that you can add to the task or as the accomplishment to the task?
Yeah, I like that. My challenge most mornings is my exercise. And when I have it coupled with, I created a power walk playlist on Spotify. So I I can't help but be excited and pumped as I'm doing my morning power walk. And I always come back energized. So that's a good way to do that too. And I like what you're saying about sometimes with that jumping up and down, even if you just accomplished one small phone call that you really have been putting it off or whatever, and you make the phone call and do the happy dance, it changes your energy, right? I've also learned that if you have, especially if you're talking about making phone calls, if you stand up, your energy is different. And if you're looking at a mirror and you see yourself smile, smiling just completely changes your energy automatically anyway. So sometimes if we're in a funk, we just, even if all you do is do a little fake smile, it'll change your mood some. I can't say it'll fix it, but it'll help you anyway. Um,
That
so
makes me think of an episode of Party Down where the lady just keeps, she's trying to smile like 500 times the whole day and she looks so silly doing it, but it's such a good thing to do. Just keep smiling. Yeah.
yeah, you use less muscles smiling than you do frowning. So you're not even burning calories by smiling. You're just anyway, it's all happier. And I like what you're saying about making it fun. Everything should be fun. So here's something that kind of gets in my way. And I've created some part of this is building barriers or boundaries around your time when you have these big accomplishments that you want to make that day. One of the things that I do is I have my phone is set to do not disturb. And so it doesn't go on until 8:30 in the morning. So with the exception of emergencies that might happen, like a parent calls. So from 8:30 to 6:30, it's on. At 6:30 at night, I know that my energy starts to fade and my brain doesn't work as well after 6:30. I don't know about you. So having my phone go into do not disturb at 6:30 helps me to be present and start kind of changing my energy and getting out of work mode and into home mode and relaxation and food and whatever. And I have more quality time with my husband that way rather than having my phone bothering me. So we can also use that do not disturb to protect us when we're needing to have focused time. So if I'm doing something from 10 to 12 daily and I need that focused time, I can set that do not disturb so that I'm not getting dings from text messages and Facebook and my email and all of the other many notifications that we get so that we can be fully present.
You know, speaking of notifications, I'm a big fan of not having notifications on my phone. My phone is always on silent. And I, and I'm not saying that's for everybody, but there's a lot of people I know who get a ding for an email coming through. Even if they get 5,000 junk emails a day, they get a ding for every text message that comes through and every other app they have on their phone. And that distracts like crazy. That will take your focus off that thing. 'Cause then you look at your phone and then you look back at the screen or whatever you're doing. And that is just, it's to me, it's a terrible habit to have. That's why I prefer to just not have the sound on because if something's an emergency, I'll figure it out pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you call, so if someone wanted to get in touch with you for an absolute emergency, and when I say emergency, that means that something's on fire, somebody died, or there's blood. Those are my calculations anyway. Otherwise, it can wait for a couple hours. If you call somebody, I think it's 3 times in a row, even if it's on silent, it'll go through, or if it's on do not disturb, it'll go through as well. So there's definitely ways to still get around that if you absolutely have to. Now, if you use this now to call me in a non-emergency thing, I'm going to delete your number from my phone.
My gosh, that's hilarious. I didn't know that actually. That's a really good tip. So I can tell my loved ones that they can do that if they absolutely need to get a hold of me for something.
Yeah.
We didn't mention this earlier, but when we were talking about setting up tasks and priorities, there's the non-negotiables. Like I know
Mm,
you exercise in the morning. That's a non-negotiable. So always having that on the calendar or in your internal calendar, but also meetings you set with other people or things that you must get done because of deadlines, stuff like that. But that should all be put into your tasks. We were doing this video today, so I made one of my tasks to make sure I knew what I was going to talk about today. And that was one of my three tasks. But even getting a haircut or things like that, that becomes a non-negotiable for me if it's on my calendar.
yeah, that's good. And I think there's an expectation. So, as we're talking about emergencies, let's say that I'm here having this video conversation with Emma and someone tries to call me and they do the three dings so that it actually goes through, and it's just like my mom wanting to know if I'm coming for Thanksgiving dinner, right? It's not an emergency. And so to have my phone even off or something so that I am fully focused and present with you, and that's at a in a meeting, at a coffee, whatever, that having the respect for the person that you've dedicated that time to is really important. So I expect the same thing from the people that I'm with as well.
Such a great point. Yeah, phones down, notifications off during meetings, during one-on-one time. I agree with that completely.
And
Yeah.
all of those wrist phone things have like they've quadrupled the number of interruptions that people can have. My mom ends up getting, I don't know, some news channel sends her an update, and she'll be mid sentence and then look at her phone. I'm like, I'm
Yep.
here.
Yeah, that we could go on about that all day
Yes,
long.
we
That's
could.
one of
Let's
my
not go down
biggest
that
pet peeves.
road.
I agree. I agree. Well, I think this is a great time to say the next video we're going to be making, the next conversation we're going to have is about emergencies, non-emergencies, what to do if your day feels like it's going to get derailed, and how to react, I guess, to these situations so that you don't get derailed.
And you can still get those three things done.
Yes, exactly. Is there anything else you want to add to this?
I don't think so. That I think we got it.
Okay,
Well, make
awesome.
sure to take breaks.
Yes. Oh, we did forget that. Yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the
Taking
breaks. Go ahead.
taking breaks. Don't eat your lunch at your desk. Take a break. And if you can take a couple of breaks, I know OSHA guidelines are we're supposed to take all these, but when we're self-employed, it doesn't really matter. Like we can't hold ourselves accountable, but taking those breaks gives us that kind of like resurgence of energy at the end of the break so that we can tackle something that again later in the day that might be more taxing.
Yes, and I'm a huge fan of sitting outside in the sun because I do feel like the sun kind of burns off that, stale energy and makes you refreshed and feeling better. So yeah, great point. Too bad we missed that earlier, but we hit it. I'm so glad you remembered. Okay, so next time we'll talk about what happens when you get derailed.
Yes, sounds
Okay,
great. We'll
awesome.
see
All
you
right.
then.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.